When you think of the greatest shortstops of all time, at least in the more modern times with players that most of us have watched, you think of Derek Jeter, Cal Ripken Jr., Alex Rodriguez was a shortstop for a long time before moving to third. Jeter is the most iconic shortstop for obvious reasons. He was a Yankee and only a Yankee for the entirety of his 20-year career. He was a really good hitter. He was a clutch player just in general and in the postseason, a time of year he was very used to playing in. The Yankees made the playoffs 12 years in a row from his rookie season on, and 17 of the 20 years Jeter played in. He won 5 championships, he never cheated or used steroids, he was a very likable person, never came across as a douchebag or anything to the public. So even though he was actually a historically awful defender at the position, his overall game is the most iconic and looked up to when the position of shortstop is discussed. Yet there's someone else who came out pretty much at the same time Jeter originally did, someone who not only had the potential to be better than Jeter, but was well on his way to a better career. Maybe the best career of all time for any shortstop. So join me, you 140 plus thousand awesome supporters and the 67% who haven't subscribed yet, and let's dive into the Hall of Famer that never was, Nomar Garciaparra. Nomar Garciaparra grew up in Southern California, got the name Nomar from his father Ramon. I'm going to give you a second to figure out what those two names have to do with one another. I'll give you 3. 1, 2, 3. It's Ramon spelled backwards. And Ramon was a very good yet unique influence on how Nomar went about hitting, teaching him at a young age the importance of not striking out by giving Nomar 25 cents for each hit in T-ball and fining him 50 cents for every strikeout. And by just 13 years old, Nomar was thrown into a batting cage by his father against a college pitcher who could throw 90 miles an hour. Good luck? Well, Nomar did just fine, actually, because after missing the first pitch, he proceeded to hit solid line drives on the next 2 pitches. As a kid, Nomar's nickname was No Nonsense Nomar, because of how much effort he put in to be a good athlete. So just by hearing that little backstory, it wouldn't take a rocket scientist to guess that he'd be at least somewhat of a good baseball player at a high level. But spoiler alert, he wasn't at least somewhat of a good baseball player at a high level. He was an incredible baseball player at a high level. Nomar won American League Rookie of the Year in 1997, just 1 year after Jeter won the same award in 1996, so right off the bat, no pun intended, these two were already practically the same player. Shortstops who won Rookie of the Year, and although that part is true, Nomar's rookie season was significantly more impressive than Jeter's. Like, it blew his out of the water. Jeter's rookie season wasn't bad or anything, he had over 300 and had a good on-base percentage, but his overall hitting was barely above league average. I'm no stat guy or expert by any means, and I don't really care to be, but I find OPS Plus as a good way of comparing a player's overall offense to how it was overall for the league in that specific year. OPS Plus is a stat that gives us context on how good a player's OPS is compared to the league average. Derek Jeter's OPS in 1996 was 800, but it's not that black and white of a stat. Sometimes an 800 OPS can equate to an OPS Plus way higher than league average. Sometimes it equates to one closer to average, like 1996. For a random example, Nathaniel Lowe had a 775 OPS in 2023 for the Rangers. Despite that being a whole 25 points below Jeter's 1996 OPS, his OPS Plus was actually higher than Jeter's 1996 OPS Plus at 111 instead of Jeter's 101 OPS Plus, with 100 being league average. Nomar's OPS in 1997, his rookie season, was 875. He also hit over 300 in his rookie year like Jeter did, had a lower on-base percentage than Jeter did, but much better power numbers, having a slugging percentage over 100 points higher, and he also tripled the amount of home runs that Jeter had in his rookie year by hitting 30. He had the most hits in the American League, the most triples in the American League, and as far as awards or any accolades, Nomar was named an All-Star, won a Silver Slugger Award, and finished top 8 in MVP voting, along with the Rookie of the Year award that he won. As for 1998, Nomar got better. Literally everything stat-wise improved. His batting average, which was already over 300, got higher. His slugging percentage, which was already well over 500, got higher. His OPS, which was already well over 850, which is really good, went well over 900. He hit 35 home runs instead of 30, drove in 122 runs instead of 98. He struck out a total of 30 less times than he did in 1997. I mean, he was incredible. Everything improved, and then he got even better in 1999, hitting .357, which won him the American League batting title, and after raising his on-base percentage from .342 to .362 in 1998, he had an on-base percentage of .418 in 99. His slugging percentage was over .600, his OPS went from .875 to .946 in 1998 to .1022 in 1999, finishing second in the MVP voting, and remember how he struck out 30 less times in 1998 from the previous year? He went from 92 strikeouts in 1997 to 62 in 1998, so why not lower it some more in 1999, striking out only 39 times while walking a total of 51 times. I'm no coach at anything, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that backwards Nomar's advice and methods helped backwards Ramon's approach and skill at the plate in the big leagues. Like, good God. But guess what? He got even better in 2000. It's a new century, so Nomar went out and played even better. Although the home runs were down and so were the RBIs, his batting average got even higher, hitting .372, which won him the American League batting title. Again, his on-base percentage got even higher, his slugging was around the same, his OPS got even higher, he led the American League in intentional walks, meaning teams were scared of facing him, he only struck out 50 times while walking 61 times, just incredible stuff. So Nomar is doing all of this, putting up these numbers and finishing top 5 or top 10 in the MVP voting in every one of his first 4 years in the league as a shortstop, which is impressive, insanely impressive. If you look at the top 10 players finishing in the MVP race during these years, Nomar is one of, if not the only shortstops on it, depending on the year. In his rookie season, Nomar finished 8th in the voting, and he's the only shortstop you'll find getting any votes for MVP until 24th, which was Derek Jeter. So let's compare the two of them's first 4 seasons. Derek Jeter's first 4 seasons in Major League Baseball featured him hitting .319 with an .858 OPS and an OPS plus 21 points above league average. Nomar Garciaparra's first 4 seasons in Major League Baseball featured him hitting .337 with a .963 OPS and an OPS plus 42 points above the league average. Unfortunately, Nomar didn't necessarily get the same attention Jeter did, considering Jeter won the World Series in 3 of his first 4 seasons, whereas Nomar just made the playoffs in 2 of his first 4 years, with the Red Sox losing in both of them, including when they lost to the Yankees in 1999. But there's no debate to be had here. At this point, heading into the 2001 season, Nomar was a better player and shortstop than Derek Jeter, and in February of that year, a shirtless Nomar appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated, being referred to as baseball's toughest out. I mean, this guy was bound to be the greatest shortstop of all time. That's at least what it seemed like and how things were trending. To only improve each year for 4 years in almost every aspect of your game just to start your career was incredible. He was just 27 years old and of course a superstar in Boston, someone who was loved by everyone. And his name and the way it's pronounced in a Boston accent became one of the more iconic Boston things of all time.
Noma! Noma!
2001 would end up being a year that didn't end Nomar's career by any means or turn him into a terrible player from that point forward, but it was the beginning of the end for his shot at being the best shortstop ever. After a typical spring training workout in 2001, Nomar went to bed, and when he woke up, everything changed. His wrist was swollen and he couldn't throw a ball or swing a bat. The team physician, Dr. Bill Morgan, ended up later describing the damage in Nomar's wrist, along with the amount of surgery that had to be done to fix it, as significant, and he ended up only playing 21 games in 2001. So what did this even stem from? Well, Nomar and the doctor traced it back to a game on September 25th, 1999, when Orioles pitcher Al Reyes hit Garciaparra on the wrist with a pitch. Nomar had actually complained afterward about discomfort in the wrist that was hit, but it obviously wasn't anything serious enough to take much action or anything that altered Nomar's game, someone who of course went on to play the entire 2000 season and have a great year, his best yet. So was the decision by Nomar and the team to not take his wrist discomfort maybe a little more seriously something that impacted his lost 2001 season? You can only think it had to at least have some factor in it. What I don't understand is why it took the wrist until 2001 to become so terrible, rather than 2000, several months after the initial injury. Regardless, Nomar would come back in 2002, and although his numbers weren't necessarily groundbreaking like they were before 2001, he still had a great 2002 season, a better 2002 season than Derek Jeter did, and a better 2003 season than Derek Jeter did. So in every season that he was healthy and played the entire time, Nomar put up better numbers than on Derek Jeter, and the only other shortstop to compare was Alex Rodriguez, who was on the juice. And that's when some more injuries started to creep in, along with the end of his Red Sox career. The off-season leading into 2004 had a lot of moving parts. Nomar was about to enter the last year of his contract before becoming a free agent, and with an extension not getting sorted out, the Red Sox began working on a potential trade that would send Manny Ramirez to Texas for Alex Rodriguez. And in the scenario in which this trade went through, the Red Sox would have subsequently traded Nomar to the White Sox for Maglio Ordonez, a plan that eventually got leaked and angered Nomar along with his agent. The whole A-Rod deal never worked out, and the Yankees ended up getting him instead to play third base to replace Aaron Boone, who had gotten a season-ending injury playing basketball. So Nomar stayed in Boston to start 2004, although the future between him and the team didn't look bright considering what almost had happened and no contract being resolved. And it didn't make things any better when Nomar was out for the first 2 months because of an Achilles injury, not being able to start playing until June. And although he was really good offensively, Nomar's defense wasn't nearly as good. He didn't have as much fielding range, likely because of the injury. And a little less than 2 months after he started playing in 2004, the Red Sox felt it was best to trade Nomar to improve the defense and get more everyday bats in the lineup rather than Nomar, who was having to get frequent days off because of the injury. So off to Chicago Nomar went, but instead of the White Sox, like the offseason plan potentially had in store, he was sent to the north side to join the Cubs. Despite trading away such a beloved player, it all worked out in the end for the Red Sox, who'd of course go on to win the World Series. But don't get it mistaken, Nomar wasn't forgotten by anyone, including the players who are part of the playoff run. Players who voted to give him a World Series ring along with 3/4 of a playoff share, which was over $167,000. Red Sox bloody sock hero Curt Schilling even acknowledged Nomar as someone who helped the Sox win it all, as Nomar played a part in making the Red Sox an attractive destination to play at for guys like him along with Pedro Martinez and Manny Ramirez. So it was a bittersweet ending as a Red Sox player for Nomar, and after the 2004 season he wasn't able to get the big contract he was looking for, in large part because of how banged up he was, settling for a 1-year deal to stay with the Cubs. But to kick off 2005, Nomar was only able to play 14 games before a torn left groin knocked him out until August. He'd finished the season strong, but it wasn't enough to get a big contract, having to settle for another 1-year deal, this time going back home to Southern California to play with the Dodgers, and he became an all-star again. He hit over 300 in 2006 with an .872 OPS, he struck out only 30 times all year and walked 42 times, so the hitting didn't change much from the last full season he played in back in 2003, but one big thing did change, which was the glove that Nomar wore, moving to first base with the Dodgers, where he actually did pretty well, re-signing with the team for 2 years after the season, and he hit really well average-wise to kick off 2007, but the power was tremendously down, with Nomar hitting just a single home run during the first 2.5 months of the season. He did deal with some injury issues in August and September, but still managed to play most of the year. There was just one kind of big issue. He wasn't good. For the first time in Nomar Garciaparra's career, he had a bad year in what can be considered a mostly full season's worth of games. He only hit 7 home runs and his OPS was at 700, 20 points below league average. He was really bad. And 2007 was the true beginning of the end. It was the last time he'd ever play what can be considered a full season, or at least close enough to it, going on to play just 55 games in 2008 because of multiple injuries, getting a 1-year deal with Oakland for 2009, where he'd only play 65 games with bad numbers, being a below league average hitter again. The most memorable moment of that season for him was the standing ovation he'd get from Red Sox fans when he returned to Fenway, and at 35 years old, Nomar decided it was time to hang him up and call it a career, signing a 1-day contract with the Red Sox to retire where it all began for him. And that's officially when one of the most what-if careers of all time came to a close. And ironically, in Nomar's final year, one that only continued to plague him with injuries, Derek Jeter would win his 5th championship with the Yankees. Jeter would go on to actually never have that great of a year ever again. He was really good in 2009, but from 2010 through 2014, his final season before retiring, Jeter only had 1 above-average season. So, in the end, Derek Jeter is obviously the more accomplished shortstop. He got more accolades and simply just played more. He played longer and was way more durable. In 16 of Jeter's 20 seasons, he played over 140 games. He only had 2 lost seasons, in a sense where he didn't play enough games to qualify for anything, and one of those was 1995, before he even qualified as a rookie, and then 2013, the year before his final year. So from 1996, his rookie year, all the way through 2012, Derek Jeter averaged 151 games played a year. From 1997, Nomar's rookie year, through 2009, his last season, he averaged 108 games played a year. Derek Jeter's very best season was not as good as Nomar's best season, and Jeter's prime was never as good as Nomar's prime, but it just lasted longer, and that's what hurt Nomar the most. Jeter was able to put together good seasons over a really long period of time, while Nomar was able to put up great seasons but only for so long before he broke down. And breaking down the way he did ended up costing him a Hall of Fame induction, a place his career was undoubtedly trending toward. It's unfortunate, even though it was a successful time in the big leagues, because Nomar will always be intriguing to think about what could have been if some things went differently. And what could have been, in my opinion, would have been a career featuring the greatest shortstop of all time. But instead, we're left to wonder what would have happened. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.